This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's our job to help you as the construction business owner and leader create a business that generates freedom, impact, and wealth. We're all about systematizing your construction business to eliminate chaos and maximize profits. Got a great interview for you today with my friend Spencer Powell from Builder Funnel, and here's what you're going to learn about. How to use marketing as a lever for adjusting lead flow, what you could be wasting your marketing energy and dollars on. Spencer talks about how people really and actually find you online. We'll discuss the 80-20 on marketing activities and the question that you need to answer first. What you can focus on now to strengthen your position during the next downturn. The biggest group of people you actually want to market to that no one else is likely talking to. Spencer talks about this concept of using, quote, lifestyle content to build relationships with future clients, how you can use your website during the sales process, and how to leverage automation. We also discuss how you can say no gracefully. And then Spencer talks about how creating constraints can actually make you more effective. Lots of good stuff. Have a few resources that I want to share with you before we get into that interview with Spencer. Here you go. If you own a construction business, I want you to imagine this. Imagine this scenario. You have a plan and a design for your business 2 years in the future. Your team has clearly defined roles and responsibilities today, and everyone knows what lane they're in. Your team is nailing the handoff from the office to the field, and your field teams have everything they need to finish instead of just having just enough to start. Your financial systems are dialed in. Your pricing work profitably, and you understand the story that your financial reports are telling you. Your team is solving problems quickly with fewer mistakes and without you. Your phone is ringing a lot less with questions, and fewer problems are landing in your lap. You're spending less time sorting through hundreds of emails or messages every day. That means you have time to think, to operate strategically, to be proactive. Maybe it's to go sell or to go work on another business venture or work on your business. You're present when you're at home with your spouse and your kids, and you have time for vacations. And then when you come back from vacation, you don't have to worry about what's waiting for you. How would you describe what that would feel like in one word? Think about it. What is one word you would use to describe how that would feel like? Think about it. What would that be like? Well, if you want to join the growing number of construction business owners we're working with to achieve those exact outcomes, then here are the first few steps. First, go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY. Read about who our best fit clients are, and then if it makes sense, fill out a short form on that page. Our team will review that form, and if it looks like there's a good mutual fit, we'll contact you to schedule a strategy call. On that call, we'll assess where you're at, where you want to be, some options for how to help you get there, and if it looks like there's a good mutual fit, we'll talk about what working with us looks like. The first step is to go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. That's constructionleadingedge.com/APPLY. Are you tired of chasing down field reports? Raken's easy-to-use software helps you connect the field to the office. That way, you get the progress updates you need without wasting hours on the job. With Raken's mobile app, field crews can share updates as they build. Everything from daily reports, time-stamped photos and notes, to time cards, checklists, and production data. All that field data is turned into a professional, branded PDF report, making it easy to see and share how a project is going. With Raken's web dashboard, the office can track projects in real time and find actionable insights to improve them. Give your field crews an app they'll actually use and get the data you need to build better projects. To learn more, go to rakenapp.com. That's RAKENAPP.com. When it comes to experiencing growth in your construction business, you have to think differently about how you run it. Because to eliminate chaos, maximize revenue, and grow your business, you can't do everything on your own, right? You eventually realize that your valuable and expensive time shouldn't be spent on tasks like bookkeeping that can be easily delegated to someone else. And this is where our friends at Belay can help. Because whether you need a US-based bookkeeper, a virtual assistant, social media manager, or website specialist, Belay has the right, highly vetted, US-based professional ready to help you. And to help you get started, Belay is offering their latest book, Delegate to Elevate, for free. In this ebook, you'll learn how to reclaim time to focus on the things only you can do by delegating, to unleash the powerful, multiplying effects of entrusting others. To claim this offer, just text the word EDGE to the number 55123 for your free copy today. That's EDGE to the number 55123. Start delegating your bookkeeping to an expert from Belay to regain your peace of mind. You'll wonder why you waited so long. Now, let's jump into marketing, sales automation, creating constraints with my friend Spencer Powell. Enjoy. Spencer Powell, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again, Todd.
Yeah. So we've spoken, we've been at a couple of the same events, a few of the same events. We were at CoCon in 2019, years ago, decades ago, before COVID.
Feels like a long time ago.
Does. We were at JLC live event, I think in Providence, Rhode Island. You came to one of my events and spoke to my folks in, I think that was April of 2019, which seems like, a long time ago. And so we'll talk about what you do, but you've got a lot of insights. You work with a lot of construction builders, specifically builders and remodelers, helping them with their business. So let's jump right to one of the big questions. A lot of my clients are not struggling with sales. They have more work than they've had in years. I got off the phone with one of my clients yesterday who has doubled, maybe tripled his sales from last year. And so his challenge right now, and which is consistent with a lot of people, is they're struggling to sort through all of the opportunities coming at them. And they want to spend their time with their ideal prospects. So they don't want to waste time with people who aren't the right fit. What advice would you have for them, for these people who are standing in front of a steady stream of opportunities and they want to invest their precious time with the best fits?
Yeah, I know it's such an interesting problem compared to, what usually plagues the industry, so I'd much rather have this problem than other problems, right? Like not enough work or not enough demand. Honestly, the first couple of things that I would start to think about are how do we use some of our marketing as a tool to not only help with that lead flow, but kind of start to look at it as like levers that we can like push and pull to control the lead flow. So a good example, like a tangible example of this would be your contact us form. Maybe you've seen that over the last few years going from a few people filling it out every month to like dozens or something like that. And you're like, where is this all coming from? You can use the form fields and the questions you ask to temper demand or free up demand, based on, what's going on in your business and in the market. And so you might put on there a question that says, what's your budget range? And then the lowest option is really high, and so anybody that comes in that maybe wouldn't fit that, great, they're going to stop. And so you can actually ratchet down the lead flow with a tool as simple as your contact us form and one or two questions, honestly. We have a guy that we've been working with off and on over the years, and he actually has on his contact form like lots of directions, instructions, read all these questions, watch this video before you fill this form out. And then the final thing is check this box. Yes, I understand. I'm going to pay $1,000 for a call, and that's it. And so like, that's, I think, an extreme example of how you can really weed out people, and the people that are willing to go through all those barriers probably are your clientele.
Yeah, I've run into this. I guess it's FOMO. People, they want to have put as few obstacles in the way. It's like if somebody's interested, if they're if there's a chance, it's like the Lloyd Christmas, So, do I have a chance? What are my chances? And Mary Swanson says, 1 in a million. And most guys are like Lloyd Christmas. So there is a chance, so there's a chance that I could get some work from you. So I want to talk to everybody. And I agree with you. I think you at that point, you can indoctrinate people into your process and then drive away the wrong people and attract the right people. So I'm a huge fan, a big proponent of the pre-construction services agreement, getting paid for estimates. So some people would say, well, we don't want to hit them with that until we're at their house. And I'm like, why would you ever want to spend windshield time, go sit at somebody's house only to find out that there's no way in hell they're ever going to pay for an estimate? So I like the idea of putting a training video that indoctrinates them on the process, not only tells them what to expect, but sells them on the value of that. And then they watch that video before they even book a call. And then what I've found is one thing we learned from COVID is you can talk to people, you can present and sell without being face-to-face. So use phone calls for the first touch, use Zoom calls. You don't have to drive out and do a job site visit and sit at somebody's kitchen table only to find out that they're a bad fit.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're like listening or watching to this, the kind of the roadmap or the path, kind of incorporating both of those things we just talked about, is they come to your site, they fill out a lengthy form, they hit submit, they get a follow-up email that has that video. And the video says, you have to watch this video before we can book a call. You go through your process. You say, we're booked 4 weeks out for design meetings. We're booked however long out for whatever. Click here if you're still interested and want to book some time. It's an automatic scheduling link, and it only books on your calendar when you say you're available. Maybe it's 2 days a week, 4 hours a day on each of those 2 days. And then it's all automated. And if everyone's like willing to go through those barriers and say like, yes, then to your point, then just do the Zoom call, like don't go out to their house yet, do some more pre-qualification. And then you can kind of play some middle ground there if you like really want to talk to a lot of people and kind of flesh out what the opportunities are. But in times like this, I think marketing is as much repelling as it is attracting.
Yeah. So I think there's some FOMO that has to be, you have to get over that FOMO and realize this is something I came to the conclusion for my business. We're not right for everybody. What I'm looking for is a good mutual fit. So when you think about approaching sales and marketing, think about approaching marketing as we are looking for the right fit. And we know not everybody is the right fit. So we want to repel the wrong fits and we want to attract the right fits. And I'm convinced actually there's some interesting psychology that happens when you put those barriers in front of people and they go to your website. Maybe they're looking at a few other people and they go to somebody else's website who says, we would love to come out and meet you. We're going to rush out and meet you tomorrow. And they're climbing all over themselves to talk to you. And then they come to your website and you're saying, look, we're not right for everybody. Here's our process, very disciplined process. And there's this scarcity and they're thinking, wow, it's going to cost me to spend time with them. And I have to go through a process and they're looking for a mutual fit. What does this girl have that these other guys don't? Like, there's something different. There's some scarcity and some interesting psychology that happens there. What do you think about that?
100% agree. Yeah, it's counterintuitive. And I think FOMO is a good word to use because I think prior to the last couple of years, we're coming out of the Great Recession. And then there was always this like you're kind of scrapping it, and the demand wasn't there like it is now. Like it's bananas right now. And so I think a lot of that has actually built up FOMO over many, many years of just always wanting like enough opportunities, and there's always lulls. It's the seasonal business. And so, yeah, it can be scary to say I'm actually trying to push people away. But I think, like kind of defining exactly like you were talking about, defining who are we, what do we do, and who do we serve? And you almost make this box. And then to your point, it's like when people show up and they're like, yeah, I'm in that box. Like they almost want to prove it to you that they're a good fit. And that's where you want to be, not in the like begging to go out on a call and waste your time.
Yeah. You're not chasing them. They're leaning in toward you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if we look at the other extreme, let's say the other end of the spectrum, one thing that I think a lot of construction businesses should be wary of, especially those who didn't go through the 2008 crisis, is there are people who are looking at this like, this is a great time to grab all the market share I possibly can. There's so much work out there. I'm just going to take all of it. And that is a recipe for disaster. Getting diffused, dispersed among too many different markets, taking on too much work, not having the right working capital, not having the right people. So these, as I like to say, these good times we're in could make some people go bankrupt if they don't handle it the right way. So I think it's very important. Now's a great time to niche down and look at your financials. What's working well? What are the projects we're really good at that are profitable? And let's say no to everything else and go find out more. And one of the things I remember you shared the last time you were on the podcast, I asked, what's a good marketing strategy? And your response was, well, what's been working for you? Go do more of that. So it's the same way from an overall business strategy. What's been working well for you? Do more of that. Wouldn't it be stupid to go do a bunch of work that's not profitable just because you can? Because people are asking you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a simple guy. I try to like take complex stuff and just make it simple. And yeah, a lot of people doubled revenue in the last 1-2 years, but their profit was the same or less. And I'm going, well, that's just a lot more work for like, that doesn't sound like fun. But yeah, to your point on that, one thing we've been talking a lot about is maybe you did kitchens, baths, and additions, and you're going, gosh, we're really good when we can do kitchens, Yeah, say no to a few more baths and more kitchens, and look at where you're making your money right now. Because I'd rather have you do the same revenue and be twice as profitable than to just double your revenue and have the same profit, And I think that just building on your point, right? Like this is where people can get hurt, is like you focus on top line, just grow. And then you look and you're like, whoa, you just feel like you came out of a whirlwind and not much to show for it.
Yeah, the idea is not to get more customers. The idea is not to get more revenue. It's to be as profitable as possible. And the counterintuitive way to do that is to say no to things. And a lot of people struggle with that, but
it's hard.
Your ability to say no is directly related to your success, which is weird because when you first start in business, whether you're in marketing or you're consulting and advising like we are, or if you're a builder, when you get started, you want to say yes to everything. But then at some point it has to flip and you have to say no to almost everything and get really disciplined about the things you say yes to. Otherwise, you get stuck and you can't break through that ceiling. And it's 100% psychological. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said.
So let's talk about what's not working in marketing. What's a waste of time? What do you see people wasting time on when it comes to marketing these days?
Yeah, there's two things come to mind, especially just thinking about current environment. One is a quick one. We won't spend forever on it, but that is third-party lead gen sites. So Home Advisor, Angie's List, House, like those have always been a challenge, I think, especially when it comes to quality. And so right now, those just feel like a money pit because you're throwing money in there and you're probably getting dumped on with leads, but they're not going anywhere. They're just wasting time.
You have a tenuous relationship with one of those sites. As I recall, you did kind of a
an open letter. Yeah.
Martin Luther like nailed an open letter to their door. Essentially, what was that about?
Yeah, we did an open letter to House maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and we just said like, here's what we see that's going on. You built up this site, you have all the, remodelers and builders and, make free profiles for them. And then you attract a big audience and then you start charging them to generate leads on the site. And they're basically trying to serve two masters, right? The end consumer and the contractor or the builder, but the builder, the contractor is the one paying. And then they're not really optimizing for that paid experience. They're optimizing for the consumer experience. So it just ends up creating, I think, a conflict that has not panned out. And I can confidently say, years and years and years, less than 5% of people that I talk to individually one-on-one have not had a good experience when they're paying for like the House Pro services from a lead gen standpoint. Every once in a while I run into somebody and they're like, yeah, it generates a few jobs a year and I'm happy with them. Like, great, keep doing it. Right. If it works for you. But most people they think they should be doing it. And when they actually go look at the numbers, they're like, oh yeah, it's just garbage. Or I'm running up against 3 other companies when they said I had exclusivity or whatever shenanigans are going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So third-party lead gen sites could be a waste of time. What else do you see people wasting time and energy on?
This may be controversial, but social media. And I'll explain it. I won't just leave it at that. But the way I've seen social media playing out, especially for this industry, is if you're going to go all in on it and really embrace it, you're going to shoot the live video, you're going to be on the job sites, you're going to do the stories, the casual stuff where you pull up your phone, you're going to tag other companies, you're going to comment, you're going to you're actually going to participate. Great. You'll see some result. You'll see some fruit from that. You'll make some connections. You'll get some lead gen going. If you're just sharing stuff every once in a while, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying don't expect it to produce this amazing result. And so I like to tell people just like go all in and do it. And if you're not willing to do that, that's okay. Then just keep it the bare minimum to be professional, share your stuff, have a good brand experience. Because what happens is people really find you via Google. And then they go check you out on social media to verify and look at what you're doing. And so you want that step, that verification step to check the box and be like, cool, these guys are active. They're here. I can get to know them a little bit. I can see some projects, some team photos, some stuff like that. But just do the bare minimum and don't waste a lot of extra time. And I think a lot of people are doing kind of the bare minimum, but they're expecting social media as this magical, lead gen thing. And it's like, you really got to put in a lot of time and effort if you want it to be.
So is that, is it because that sort of organic outreach just isn't that effective, or is it because of the nature of social media? What is it?
Yeah, organic has definitely just plummeted in the last few years. So if you're posting something, especially post on Facebook, you look at the organic reach, it's in the gutter. And then if you put $20-$30 behind a post, it'll, now it's going to reach a whole bunch more people. So I definitely recommend at least putting budget behind most of your stuff. But I think the other part of it too is when you actually actively participate, you comment, you like, you share, you find other accounts, that is baked into, the organic, and you're going to start showing up in more explore feeds or on other people's feeds. And, so that's where I think you can actually start to get some of the lead gen efforts, or if you're direct messaging people that follow you saying hello, like it takes active work to actually get some response. Otherwise, somebody's just going to follow you, and then they're going to see a bunch of photos, but no activity, no comments, no engagement. And so chances are they found you, they're maybe thinking about a project, so they want to follow a few companies for a while they're doing their research. And that's kind of the extent of it. But if they got a personal message and they see a lot of activity, they might tune in more. You'll show up on their feed more, so like it's all connected. And all these sites want engagement, they don't want just like content spewing out. And so that's why I always say just embrace whichever path you're on, but then align your expectations with that path. So go all in and go for it, or don't, and just be present and maximize what you can from that, but don't expect the moon from it.
Yeah. There's a mistake I see people making. It's a fundamental mistake in social media. They're sharing stuff about themselves, and they're looking at it from a perspective of, here's what I think is cool. And I'm going to talk about me, and maybe using a Donald Miller story brand type approach. They are the hero in the story. It's like, look at me, look at my truck, look at my truck rep, look at our vans, look at me talking, look at me walking around the job site, look at this kitchen. And very few people are taking Donald Miller's advice to make the customer the hero of the story. And it's, frankly, when I look at Instagram once every few days, to be honest, they all kind of look the same. I follow builders and remodelers from all over the world, and they all kind of look the same. And what's in it for me? That's what people are looking for, and they're looking for something valuable to them. So, that's good advice. So let's talk about what people should do. We have a lot of really busy people, and they're wondering, what's the 80-20? What are the 20% of activities when it comes to marketing that I should focus on that will give me 80% of the results so I get the most bang for my buck? What would you say falls into that 20% of activities?
Yeah. I mean, the quick answer is the 20% that's producing the most now. The challenge to that is, do you actually know? Because a lot of times people aren't tracking, or they're loosely tracking, but they don't actually have a true sense of what is producing their current revenue. But that's always going to be the best answer and the right answer for you, because I could say anything, right? I could throw a tactic out to that question, and it's going to be different for everybody, and sure, there are some, like, I'm going to dive into a couple recommendations, but just know that there's still generalizations to a degree, because, a company that's been built on word of mouth for 30 years, and then they do like 2 different things for marketing, their answer is going to be different than a company that literally built themselves off the ground 3 years ago on marketing because they had no word of mouth. So those 2 answers just aren't going to look the same. So that's where I always say is like, look at what you're doing now. And can you, same thing you referenced earlier, can you double down on that, and strip away your worst performing channel? And that's the low hanging fruit. The other part of the answer for me comes down to playing the long game, because if you're super busy right now, you have a lot of lead flow, and you're really trying to repel more out, you'd be thinking like, well, one, why do I want to do marketing at all? Should I just save that money? And my philosophy on this is always, you should always be marketing, and you should always be optimizing your marketing. And right now, you probably don't need paid channels like Google Ads, the third-party lead gen sites. You probably want to be paying a little on social to boost your content, but you're not necessarily like advertising on TV or like any of those types of channels, because you just don't need to be throwing those dollars at those channels. But organic SEO is something that you can't flip the switch on and turn up and down like you can with paid channels. So that's something where if you can improve your positioning now, then when things cycle down, here's a good way to think about it. Let's say kitchen remodeling Denver gets 1,000 searches a month right now. Things are hot. A lot of people are searching for that. And you're ranking 5th on the page. You're getting some of that. You're getting a little bit. If you can move up to position 3, 2, 1, and then we fast forward a year or two from now, and demand is a lot lower, it's 500 a month. You're just going to get the same percentage of that share if you're in the same position. But if you can move up to position 2 or 1, you're going to get a lion's share of the 500. And so you might actually be able to hold even on your revenue and your lead flow if you improve your positioning when demand is less. And so the things that I'm thinking about right now for companies are, what are things like that where I can build for a low time? And if I can maintain my revenue through a low time, then you'll explode out of it for the next boom time. And that typically is brand related things or something like SEO, where you're solidifying your ranking for searches, and demand will go up and down, but you want to be in the spot where you get the lion's share of the demand, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is, in a way, making your business more recession resistant, and looking forward to, not being excited about the next recession, but looking forward to it, knowing it's coming. There will be a downturn, and the worst time to think about what to do in a downturn is in the middle of a downturn.
Yeah.
And the best time is now when things are good. So one of my clients is incredibly busy. It's actually working with your team, and they don't need leads now, but their plan was, we want to do this work now. We're thinking 2 years in the future. Now, one of the unintended side effects is their lead flow has gone up dramatically already, just in the 6 months that they've been working with you guys. So it's a good thing. And but yeah, I think it's incredibly important to think now.
Yeah.
There's a saying, a quote from Warren Buffett, that when the tide goes out, you see who wasn't wearing a bathing suit. And times are fat right now. We're talking about people who are struggling with sales right now. Something must be wrong. But there are a lot of people who are just getting by because the market is so soft, and the tide will go out. And now is the counterintuitive time for you to make plans for the downturn, whether that's from a marketing standpoint, how can we strengthen our position? So when things do slow down, we're ready. The work that we do is recession-proofing your business so that you have systems and processes in place to optimize your operation. So that's counterintuitive, because why should I invest in marketing? I'm super busy right now. That's kind of the same mindset that I used to deal with small-time residential subs who wouldn't even answer the phone when they were busy for a week. They're like, I got a week's worth of work. Why would I ever return this guy's call? And it's pretty short-term thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a few things there. One, on the why should I spend marketing now when I'm so busy? I think if you don't, another bad habit that gets created is, if you take your marketing budget to 0 or really low, you start to kind of build your numbers around that. And then when you actually need it, now you have to add that in. You're like, oh, I need 2% or 3 or 5% or whatever percentage you're using for marketing, but you haven't been pricing your jobs that way, or stuff starts to slip. And so it builds a really bad habit there. So that's one thing I would caution too, is if you're just looking at it as a percentage of your revenue, and you're just going, yep, we're going, we need to spend this. And then, and we're building that into our margin and the way we price everything, then that's a good thing. The other thing is, when we're talking about preparing for a recession or the tougher times, branding actually has one of the lowest cost per lead, like it's a low cost per lead activity, but it's over a really long time horizon. So when you think about branding, like you always think about big companies, Coke, Nike, and everything, and they spend like a lot on TV and all these things that aren't like just driving sales today, right? But you think about like if you see them 50 times over a 4 or 5 year period or 100 times over a 10-year period, like people start buying, you start seeing that. And so I would be thinking about branding activities that you can say like, yeah, maybe this actually isn't going to drive leads today, but it's something I'm going to start and I'm going to do it for the next 5 to 10 years. Like, I think that's a good mindset to get into. And then the final thing that made me think of, we were talking about the shared client of ours where their leads have gone up. They weren't really like they were planning for the future and leads have gone way up. More leads is more opportunity, no matter what. We talked about some pre-qualification things at the beginning of this, but like you can refer leads off, find some partners, get a commission for referring those off. If you literally have so many leads that you can't process them all, raise your pricing 40%. See what happens. Maybe you land a tenth of the jobs, but you're like, these are great. They're super profitable. Like if you have not enough leads, you have fewer options and you're very restricted. You have to make decisions you don't want to make. When you have so many leads, it only creates opportunity. Yes, there's a challenge in like automating or figuring out how to sort through them. But that's a minor challenge, I think, compared to the opportunity you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the long-term approach, playing the long game with marketing, that reminded me of something we talked about on a previous podcast. There are a few different groups of people out there. There are a lot of people think, well, I'm marketing to people who want to buy right now. The people who are going to see this message in the next 7 days, they'll hit my website. I can give them an estimate and do a project. Is that the group you should really be spending all of your energy marketing toward, or is there another group?
Yeah. You probably know how I'm going to answer it, but yeah, I love the question because you do shift your focus to like, how can I target the buyers 6, 12, 18 months from now? And when I always think in terms of content marketing, just because it's a core of what we do, but it's also the style of marketing where you're educating and you're building trust. And that tends to be over that kind of like longer time horizon. But if you think about attracting somebody that's going to be a buyer, let's just say 18 months from now, they're in the dreaming phase. So then you go, okay, well, how can I pull somebody into my world while they're dreaming? Well, they're going to be thinking about design. They're probably like, yeah, they probably care about cost or what the process is, but like they're going to research that later. Right now, they're just like, I wish I could have X, and they're all into the design. And so those types of topics are going to be attracting people earlier in the buying decision. They probably don't even want to talk to you today, right? They just want to research and browse. They want to look at photos. They want to watch videos on design. They want to get ideas on everything about how to do the layout and, maybe even interior decorating or, all of those related topics. So if you start to think about like that stage of dreaming, then there's a lot of opportunities to like create content and educate and start to pull those people into your world. And then obviously we want to capture them on our email list and build a relationship over time. We won't dive super deep into that. The other thing I'll mention too is this is a great time to focus on lifestyle content. So this is something we've been doing for years, and it's been kind of interesting to watch because some of this content just goes bonkers on Google. It ranks really well. You get tons of traffic, but it's not like they're all rushing to like book a call or anything like that. An example would be the top 5 country clubs in Denver. And you're going, why would I write about that as a remodeler or builder? You're going, well, who gets a membership to a country club? A high-end buyer. So you're going, okay, like what you're really trying to do is just associate your brand with that high-end buyer. So you're going to talk about country clubs. We have a client, we write about like airplane hangars and like storing your airplane. And you're going, well, that's a hobby. Or, if somebody owns an airplane, like we're in the right arena. Boating, golfing can kind of sit in the middle there, but if it's like a golf membership club or a high-end club, like, so if you start thinking about lifestyle content, that's a great thing to focus on now to start attracting the right buyer.
Yeah, I like that. So find out where they are, where are they hanging out?
Yeah.
And then give them valuable information about stuff they care about.
Exactly.
Some people are thinking, wait a minute, but Spencer, how can I tell them how many trucks I have or how long I've been in business, or that we hand nail all of our shingles instead of using pneumatic nailers, and we have all these excavators? Like, but how am I going to inject stuff about me into that content? I think the answer is you don't, because it's not about me. It's giving them valuable content. So what happens when somebody who's a future buyer, let's say, or maybe they're not even a future buyer, they're just somebody in your community, when they see that sort of lifestyle content, what happens in their brain? How do they start? What's the benefit to a contractor for doing that?
Yeah, I think a few different things happen. I mean, one is you're going to have a group of those people that just like come, they're literally, we're just looking for that information, and they leave, never to be seen again. Like, great, no harm, no foul. The other ones, I think there's a couple more things. One is you asked what happens in their brain. Like, they're starting to associate your brand with high end, your brand with helpful, trustworthy, informational. Like, those are good associations that you want to have. And then you can transition a little bit. So within those posts, maybe on the sidebar or woven in, you have a custom home design guide. Not everyone's going to be interested, right? Because they were thinking about country clubs or whatever. But then some people are like, that's interesting. Like, what's that? And now they're on your list. And now you're going to drip on them with more content that's, again, helpful to them, educational. Some will be about remodeling. Some will be about lifestyle. Some will be about custom homes, that sort of thing. But now they're in your world. And I don't know if they're going to be a buyer in 2 months or in 2 years. But like, if they stay subscribed, then somewhere along the line, you get enough people that are right target audience, high-end buyers, and they're getting your stuff. Some of them will be future buyers. The other thing is a little bit more of an advanced topic, but if you do retargeting or any lookalike audiences, you're building traffic that is a high-end buyer. And so if you end up doing some retargeting, now you can do that. And if you start building a list of high-end buyers, you can then create lookalike audiences, which is more technical, but you go onto Facebook and you create these. Now you can find other people similar to them in your area and start running ads to them. And that's, again, a long-term play. You're like, I don't need to run ads today, but if I can build this big lookalike audience over the next 2 years, I'll be in a powerful seat.
Interesting. I'm wondering, what are some examples of non-construction brands that are doing this, that they're putting their message in front of an audience? So one that comes to mind is, we talked about Red Bull, right? Mm-hmm. So last time you were on here, we talked about being the Red Bull of marketing, but Red Bull, I'm assuming somewhere in a meeting, somebody said, all right, Red Bull, let's find our ideal customer profile, extreme sports, high energy, outdoor stuff. What if we create content around jumping out of airplanes with these gliding suits or whatever they call it, and these extreme,
makes sense, right? Yeah.
Associate ourselves with extreme sports. And because those kind of people tend to drink Red Bull, right? Are there any other examples that you can think of brands that are doing that and putting themselves in front of the right kind of audience? Yeah.
So I want to do like a throwback to like one of the original forms of this. And I totally am going to space the name of the magazine, but John Deere had a magazine, and it wasn't branded to John Deere or anything like that, but the magazine was all about farming best practices, not about equipment, but farming best practices. But of course, within there was like little things with John Deere, but it was not like played up, right? It was subtle. and it was this free magazine. You could just subscribe and you get this magazine. It was very content heavy, like all these, editorials on best practices. And you're going, that's a content marketing play. And then obviously the goal is to build trust and familiarity and some brand recognition. And then when they're like, oh, well, these guys have the equipment to help me, execute these better best practices, like let's go buy their stuff. But even as you asked the question, I was thinking, well, gosh, that's what Coke does, right? Like who's a Coke buyer? Like they have commercials. And when you see Coke, like it's always about like enjoying a summer day or, having a good time or whatever. And so they're just like really trying to connect, those feelings and emotions. And so that when you really think about like brand and content marketing, there's a lot of overlap there. But you're really just trying to associate yourself with either that emotion or the actual service that they eventually will need.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So let's talk about what are some ways to leverage a website that most construction business owners are overlooking?
Yeah, good question. I'd reference using your forms as levers that we talked about earlier. But then the other piece of it, I think, is actually using your website in the sales process. And I think a lot of people think of their website mostly as a marketing tool, and like whether it's lead gen or it's just a brochure site or however you think about it. But you can actually create a lot of that content specifically designed with like the sales process in mind. And then some of that will actually help you getting on the phone with them, like as a pre-sales or marketing. But when you actually go through that first call, then you can use material that's on the site and drive them back almost as like homework assignments. There's assignment selling, which, we could dive into that for a little bit, but really you could say, great call. Glad we talked. Like before we take our next step, go to our process page, watch this video, and then go check out these 2 projects on our site that are very similar to what you're looking to do. So you can use video content related to like what you do, how you do it. That could be sprinkled in throughout your site, but you can specifically take people back there. And then you can obviously, projects are a powerful tool. You can create project spotlights and kind of drive people that way for either inspiration and or just like confidence that you can do the project that you said you can do. But if you start thinking about it as both a marketing tool and a sales tool, it'll kind of unlock a new pathway to like pieces of content that you might want to build or create. So yeah, I think those are the first few things that come to mind.
Yeah. So it's, and maybe this ties into my next question about automation, which is what I'm hearing you say is the things that you're currently doing manually, the conversations, the words you're saying to everybody, put them on your website instead of the process being a contact us form comes in. And then the old school way is you track them down, schedule a call. What about this time? No, what about this time? What about this time? No, what about this time? And then you get on the phone or go to their house. What I'm hearing you say, a few ideas would be the way you can use your website would be someone fills out a contact form. You have some questions in there, some qualification questions to try to sort out, just help people self-select out, right? We're not trying to tell people no. Ideally, they'll self-select and say, I don't think that we're a fit. And then use calendar integrations like Calendly to book calls on your calendar. It's integrated with your calendar, so they only see times that actually work. And then use your website as a tool to automate parts of the sales process. Things that you're saying all the time, hey, go watch this. The presentations you're showing people, if you're showing slide decks or things like that, turn it into a video or a gallery and send people there and let your website work for you. What are some other ways to automate? What are some other ways that you would advise people to leverage automation when it comes to marketing and sales?
Yeah. I like the question. And I think the framework for it, if you're listening to this, is do you have any bottlenecks or do you have any like high pain points now where you just see a lot of throughput? Then like look there first, because I'll walk through a couple of examples. But if you just kind of start somewhere, like that's where I would want to start, is where am I seeing those challenges? One area, we'll kind of start at the top of the funnel. So like, let's say you have a design guide or something like that, where you're just capturing people in research mode. So those high-end buyers that are not looking today, like you can put them in kind of a general automated sequence to educate them at a high level. So it can be, thanks for downloading our guide. Then email one is like, here's our process for design build. This is what that means. This is why it's a better process, whatever. And then you kind of continue. Here's a few links for inspiration, et cetera. So you could have a chain of like 5 to 7 emails. What that does, it allows you to design how you would answer a lot of those questions that they probably have, or that they're going to ask anyway in the sales process, but you can just spoon feed it to them in an order you want, knowing that they may not even be ready to talk today. And that's okay. Like now you're just checking a lot of those boxes beforehand. The other way, is like thinking about that contact us form. Some cool automation things you can do is like, if you're getting a lot of people filling that out, you can have a budget question as an example, or a project type question where they have to check boxes or select from a drop down, like this is a project I'm interested in doing. And you might even list bathrooms, but maybe right now you really don't want to even touch those because you're focused on bigger projects. You can, if they pick bathrooms, you can have an automated email that says, if they pick bathrooms, send this email, and it'll say, super sorry, we're booked up right now for 12 months and we're actually not taking on bathroom projects right now. I know this is disappointing. Here are a couple of other companies that may be able to help you out. Best of luck, or, and you can keep it very professional, but now you don't even have to get back to them manually. It's saving you time, and you still are presenting yourself as a professional company. You can still send them to other resources or helpful links and stuff like that. So I think there's numerous options within that, kind of workflow to think about. Like, is it a budget question? Super sorry, our minimum is 100K right now. I know that's disappointing. Like, you can acknowledge the frustration that they probably would have after filling out a form, but then as long as you take them to a solution, I think that's some nice automation. And then the other piece I like to think about is the steps in between meetings. So, okay, I had that pre-qualification call. Like, if I'm booking the next meeting, I can now drop them into, say, a sequence of 1 email, 2 emails that are going to go out that will educate them on what's to come in the next meeting, and maybe also provide links to blog posts that would be helpful, projects that would be helpful, the other piece of content you've created. And so that's a little bit of automation, but it's also like thinking about how can I use automation in conjunction with leveling up my customer experience. So those are 3. I mean, automation, there's like a million things you could do. And so that's why I wanted to frame it with like, where do you feel like you're spending a lot of time right now? And there's probably like 1 or 2 things you could build that would cut a few hours a week out of your team's time.
Yeah. Let's talk about how to say no politely. This is one that people struggle with. They really struggle with turning down projects, even when they're just a series of red flags being waved in their face. I saw something recently, and here's a quote. This was a great response. Thanks so much for your interest in working with us. We'd love to help you. However, from your request form, we find ourselves wondering if we'd be the right fit. So it's not your project isn't sufficient for us. You are irrelevant to us. It's nothing like that. It's like, we find ourselves wondering if we would be the right fit for you. And then they went on to say, here's what you may not realize. Here's how we typically work. These are the types of projects that we do. And then if in case all this sounds good to you, our next step would be to do this. So it's putting it on them saying, hey, we're not saying no, but we're wondering if we have the right fit. Here's the kind of projects we do. Here's the budget range we typically work in. If that sounds great, the next step would be this. What advice would you have for people who struggle to say no to projects that aren't a good fit?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to do it. And there's probably a variety of ways you could do it. It probably depends on if you're on the phone or through a form or an email or something like that. But I think just saying, like I was thinking about, depending on your personality and like how much you really don't like saying no, one thing you could say is like, I appreciate your interest. Right now, we're booking our first phone calls 3 months out.
Yep.
And saying like, if that sounds good to you, like here's the calendar link. But like we're super sorry, we're just slammed. And then so you're even just like pushing the first call out that far. I think as you were talking through your example copy of like, we're wondering, I think that's really good language. But it's just like, what barriers can you put up to kind of make them really have to jump over those barriers to get to the next step? And if I think it's a game of, again, levers, like you could always like raise the barrier some more. If it's not working, raise the barrier some more. But at the end of the day, if it's not a good project, I think some of it's just getting more comfortable and getting those reps in. And right now is a good time to get reps in, and you can say, hey, you've told me about your project. I'm super sorry. It just sounds like this isn't in our sweet spot. We're really strong in these areas, and I'm worried we won't be successful for you in these areas. And for those reasons, like I'd love to recommend a couple of other companies to you, or just say like, unfortunately, we need to part ways for now. Maybe there will be another opportunity in the future. Like you can be polite about it, but I think there is a nice thing about being somewhat direct, even if it's because then they're not wondering or they don't circle back around. Like if it's really not a good fit, just finding that way to just be polite and be direct and say like, let's just go our own ways. And if you have other places to point them, that can feel better, as it's an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah. I think some people avoid no because they think saying no to someone is bad. But what's even worse is to say, sure, we'll take a look, and then ghost them because you're so busy. Sure, we'll give you a free estimate. And you're like, oh shit, I've got 14 other people circling, asking the same thing, and I'm overwhelmed. So the key is set realistic expectations. If the expectation is, you know what, I don't think we're fit ever, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, then let them know. You're being kind. You're being really kind to them because they don't want to waste time either. And another worst thing you can do would be to feel this urgency to schedule a call, talk to them a week from now, knowing you can't get to their estimate. Even if they paid you, you couldn't get to it for 4 months. So why even talk to them? So in that case, just set expectations up front. Like you're saying, look, we would be happy. This looks like it might be a good fit. However, we're booked out for 3 months. And if that sounds good to you, then here's how you can schedule a call. And we're also booked out with starts for the next 18 months. So just letting you know that's where we're at. And so that's being kind by setting expectations. It's also positioning you as, wow, these guys and gals they're super busy. So there's this social proof and this scarcity, and it elevates you in their mind versus the person who's like, you know what, we can start tomorrow. You know what, we'll scrape something together. We'll throw together an estimate on a piece of paper. I've got my carbon copy paper on my clipboard. We'll whip something out, man. We can get started. You don't need a permit, do you? Just fly by night kind of stuff that goes on out there. But by doing that, it's being kind and it elevates your status. Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you guys do. What does Builder Funnel do? And then who do you work with? And then let's talk about how people can connect with you.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. We help remodelers and custom builders, so mostly design build, although not a requirement. Get you more and better clients. We're definitely focused on that better piece. And yeah, we've been doing that about 12 years. Team of about 20, kind of spread all over the country. And Yeah, just love the space. So that's what we do. When it comes down to it, like we're kind of design build for marketing. So we start with the design, which is strategy. Like let's focus on doing the right things in the right order and not just jump to tactics. So that's the fun stuff. And we have to wait a little. It's just like I wouldn't come in and just start painting cabinets if we hadn't really talked about the end goal and what we're trying to do. So we take the same approach there. People can either take the plan and go implement it themselves once we're done with that, or they'll hire us to go actually execute the plan as well. If you want to learn more, builderfunnel.com. Right on our homepage, we have a new tool that we just launched where you can grade your website. It takes about 10 seconds. So that's a good thing to check out. We also have a couple of podcasts and that sort of thing. But if you go to builderfunnel.com, you'll find everything.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So you've got an audience of a few thousand construction business owners. Let's talk about just general advice for business or life. What have you found to be something that you believe to be true about business that some would say is unconventional, maybe even a little crazy?
I like that question.
And it's not about ordering Chipotle first thing in the morning and visiting, was it every Chipotle restaurant in Colorado? Is that right? Or have you covered the entire US yet?
No. We stopped at Colorado. Yeah. Okay. There were 73 of them. So that took long enough.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what's something you believe to be true about business that some would say is unconventional, perhaps even a little crazy?
The first thing that came to mind was adding more constraints. And I think I first recognized this for myself, being a business owner, when my first son was born. And prior to that, like my wife worked, I worked full time, like we were just pushing our careers. Like I was building the business, she was doing her thing. And so you have more time to focus on that. And when my son was born, I decided I was drawing my lines in the sand. I was like, I'm not going to start until 8, whereas normally I'd, check email or I'd go into the office early some days or whatever. And 4:30, because he went to bed at 5. And so I wanted to at least be able to see him for a little bit. We'd feed him and throw him in bed and get him down. And then I wanted that time in the morning. And that was, believe it or not, that was kind of a leap. I had spent more time on my business than that. And what I realized is I got way more effective. And some of the stuff that I probably was doing, I just stopped doing and it didn't matter. And the time that I had, like I had to perform. And then I did that again last year. I said, well, I'm going to draw my line actually at the end of Thursday because I want to spend Fridays with the boys. And you don't get that time back. They'll go to school eventually and I can go back to working while they're in school and all that good stuff. But I've forced myself to I've noticed I've just gotten more effective with time management and focusing on the right things. And I think in business, we have this thought around you got to grind, you got to work 60 hours, you got to work 70 hours, you're working all the time. And I think there is a time for that, especially when you're building it from ground zero. But if you're not at ground zero, and even if you were, I think the constraints element, if you thought about where am I going to add constraints, it forces a level up within those constraints.
Yep. I like that. It's good advice. So Spencer Powell from Builder Funnel, folks, be sure to head over there, get your website checked out, and listen to Spencer's podcasts. Spencer's got a lot of great stuff. He is, Spencer, you're my number one recommendation for folks who need marketing and need their website. So one last thing, I just talked with our mutual client this morning, and here's what John said. The growth we've experienced with our website, working with Builder Funnel, has been indescribable. So he has nothing but good things to say about you and your entire team. And now the results, as I mentioned, the results have shown up faster than expected. So
yeah, it doesn't always happen, but it's really nice when it comes quicker than everyone's thinking. So
yeah.
No,
Good stuff.
thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I love hearing that. So
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time to be on here, man. Great stuff as always.
thanks, Todd.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I have one challenge and one request for you before you go. Here's the challenge. What is your 5-minute action item from this podcast? In other words, what is one thing you want to implement in your business or on your projects that will take you 5 minutes or less? My challenge for you is to create an action item as soon as this podcast is over and do it. Send yourself a text, send yourself an email, put it in your planner, write it down in your unicorn journal, whatever it is, but take action on something from this podcast episode so you get some real value from it. Now, here's the request. If this podcast has been valuable to you, please leave a rating and a review. Here's how to leave a review on Apple Podcasts on your iOS device. Number 1, open up the Apple Podcast app. Number 2, go to the icons at the bottom of the screen and choose search. Search for this show, Construction Leading Edge. Be sure to click on the show, not the episode. Then scroll all the way down to ratings and reviews, and finally click on write a review. These instructions will also be in the show notes. If you could leave a rating and a review, that would mean a lot to me, and it also helps get the word out there to other folks. And don't forget, if you want to get out of your business and make it run without you this year, go watch my free online training workshop at constructionleadingedge.com/get out. That's constructionleadingedge.com/GETOUT. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt. I'll see you next time. Remember, every project starts in the field, and Raken's field-friendly software makes documentation easy. With Raken's mobile app, crews can document progress on the go, and you can track everything in real time right from the office. So, give your field crews an app they'll actually use and stay on top of all your projects. To learn more, go to rakenapp.com. That's RAKENAPP.com. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, our sponsor, Belay, is offering a free download of their latest book, Delegate to Elevate. In it, you'll learn how to reclaim time to focus on the things only you can do by delegating to unleash the powerful multiplying effects of entrusting others. Just text the word EDGE to the number 55123 for your free copy today. That's EDGE to the number 55123. In no time, you'll be back to doing what only you can do, growing your business.